long. We stand together, stand strong. I let the politicians doing all that Babylon. I travel back in time like... All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we are going to talk about a lot of crazy things are going on, including letters from leaders of the states in support of Texas. We're going to talk about that, of course. And, of course, U.S. is stationing nuclear weapons in the UK to counter the threat from Russia. This is a huge deal as far as moving nukes around is not something that is really done lightly. So a lot here. United States is planning to station nuclear weapons in the UK for the first time in 15 years as the threat from Russia increases, Pentagon documents seen by the Telegraph reveal. Procurement contracts for a new facility at the RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk confirm that the U.S. intends to place nuclear warheads 3 times the strength of Hiroshima bomb at the airbase. The U.S. removed nuclear missiles from the UK in 2008, judging that the Cold War threat from Moscow had diminished. The disclosure comes in a wake of warnings that NATO countries need to ready their citizens for war with Russia. Now, whether this actually goes nuclear or not, every leader in NATO has been buzzing and talking about citizens getting ready. It's pretty terrifying to think about all of the countries in just the last 2 weeks that have specifically made it known to their citizens that they need to get prepped. Meanwhile, here in the U.S., it's still a message that there is not a single MSM that's telling people to get extra food and water, which is pretty nuts. That is because we're all confused, and especially here now, we think that everything is absolutely fake and it's all made up. But in my opinion, a lot of this stuff is how they want us to view a future event that will happen, which is World War III. Tonight, we have a ton on the docket. Tonight, we're going to cover a lot. So if you want to know what's on it, stick around. People's convoy to Texas. This is absolutely wild what is going on. Hopefully, it doesn't get shut down like others. And then Border Patrol siding with Texas. We have retired FBI leadership warns of a soft invasion. We have Russia has a new nuke test. We have Xi to the rescue of Ukraine. We have China pushes Iran to stop Houthis. And we have new threats disguised as satellites. We have Pentagon report, bioweapons, and brain chip warfare. Mars helicopter is done. Who knows if it ever started. And then, of course, Trudeau said this about Tucker. We're going to talk about all of that tonight on Marfoogle TV. Stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, this is, of course, a live show, but we always do the pre-work to have all of the sources and a full bibliography to every single show. You go over to our website, marfooglenews.com. You will find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document on today's show. Not only that, we, of course, have lots of great pictures and videos. Make sure to go check out all of the other videos. It's archived and searchable from all of our previous shows. So just to welcome everybody, thank you, See Here Think, Linda Atkins, Stephanie Munoz, Poco Loco, Many others here. Jammer1, of course, thank you for modding. Victoria Harsh, Kilroy was here, but now he's gone. Smoke and Swamp Outdoors, greetings, everyone. Shalom. Smoke and Swamp, thank you. Wide Awake and Angry, thank you. Surfer Girl, thank you. Tracy, Jonathan Floming, and everybody else that made it to this slightly later show. All right, let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Remember, you can find all of our wonderful mods at marfooglenews.com/friends. Also, just a reminder, no spamming, no putting down any creator or other creator. And of course, don't put down each other. That's the general rules. And the ones who are enforcing them, you don't want to get on their bad side because they're awesome people and they truly are helpful to the entire community. So make sure to return the favor by going over and subscribing to them. Go over to Bones, all the way down to Wages. And of course, Ilea, all of our greats are all in there, including Trinity and the rest of the crew. All right, and let's see here. So first of all, the UK is stationing nukes. I saw a comment earlier about this, and somebody already had commented, and they said, "Oh, who cares? We've had them there before." Even if this is a scare tactic to get everybody up in arms about this whole thing, no pun intended. This is not. I mean, like, how many things are going to happen before people really, understand what is happening here? All of us do, and I know it's kind of like beating a dead horse here because all of us are mostly on the same page. I know that there's a couple that just like all of the rest of the stuff and don't agree with me on that. But most of us believe that World War III is already happening. And most of us don't believe that this is the end of the world. This isn't an end times thing. Some of us believe it's end times. As far as with a World War III, it is something that, we've been so far from World War II that nobody thinks this is going to happen. In our opinion, it's already happening. All of the pre-work is being done. All of the movements are being done. We've just covered in the last couple of weeks, on top of all of the countries saying that it's wartime and to have their citizens prepare, we have in the United States, they are moving tanks around. They are moving gear. They are moving generators. They're moving all sorts of stuff. We haven't seen this many submissions in a long time. In fact, I can't remember the last time we've seen this many submissions to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo, or as far as this many emails about what is going on. All of the bases are buzzing. This is, of course, we have over 1,000 active and retired military in our audience. And that was the last time when we had our Discord, and it was actually, somewhat kept track of, they had their own group in there. But since then, we could have way more than that. As far as if you go to our chat, you will see many of them are ex or current military. So these are all saying that it is buzzing. It's absolutely going nuts from coast to coast. All of our bases are buzzing. So what does that mean? Well, it seems like we're getting closer and closer. We're now in 2024, and it is all popping off. People want to call it fear-mongering, which pretty much means they're afraid. All of us preppers are saying, well, if it doesn't happen, great. But if it does happen, we want to be somewhat prepared, and we don't want to be surprised when this all goes down. Dex, let's go from... So first of all, do you have comments about the U.S. stationing nukes in UK is, of course, not good?
Well, no, it's absolutely not good. But look, the biggest ire right now with Russia is the UK. So anything that we do to bolster that is sort of sticking it back to Russia. So they are going to push back against this. They even said, hey, if you do this, it's going to cause a reaction, and we will react in kind. I don't know what that means, what they're actually going to do, but they may maybe move more nukes to Belarus. They've already done that, so it's not like we're first. They did the move before we did, but nonetheless, anything with the UK really sticks it to Russia, in addition to what the US does. So that's like a double hit right now, and I think it will spur up the attention, so to speak. I don't know that anything really is going to come from it. Just the moving, but certainly the fact that we're on the brink of conflict with them, and we're not just putting tacticals there, we're putting some really big boom booms there, so to speak. That's pretty telling.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, they moved their nukes first. They moved tactical nukes supposedly to Belarus, and it's like this. Well, you know what's funny? is if any other president, I think, in my opinion, would have already moved stuff around. As far as when he initially said, "Hey, we're moving nukes to Belarus," it would have been within a day or two, the United States would have moved something in response. Now it's been so long, there are other responses where sanctions or this or that. Now it's looked at as a whole new event. So yeah, it's like they moved nukes first. Now we're moving nukes. I guess they saw something else as the reaction. All right, and then from the UK to Texas, this is going absolutely nuts. And who knows? Maybe this is all set up to be a publicity stunt before we pick our prez. I don't know. But what I do know is there's a lot of events that are all kind of circling around what's going on in the south of the border. And it's crazy because our community has talked about this for, I don't know. I mean, since the numbers started going insane, we've been covering the numbers since before MSM was really making a big stink about it. Even before some of the really big alternative media was making a stink out of it, we saw the numbers because of Fugel family that worked at the Border Patrol. They were like, hey, by the way, there's unusual number coming through right now. And now we have it to where it is at front and center, and it is going to be this issue that is completely divided. People are completely divided on it. And I'm not surprised by this, by seeing what they're teaching kids in school and what the curriculums are. They're actually teaching in schools right now, kindergarten through senior year. A lot of the public schooling is actually teaching that they should be on a certain side of this issue. So I in a couple of years, we're going to really see that this is going to be a divided issue. Young versus old, this color versus that color, this religion versus that religion. And now we have Texas National Guard, Texas State versus feds. And now there's some very, very interesting things happening around it. There's going to be a People's Convoy 2.0, is what some are labeling it, and a huge cavalcade of truckers will end up heading to the border hotspots in a bid to shame President JB administration into cracking down on migration crisis. Now, if this was Canada, you might see their bank accounts frozen. Who knows? What if that did happen? Is this another, event where something could possibly happen like this that starts everybody into a kind of a flaming argument? Don't know. But a massive convoy of truckers will make its way to 3 of the migrant hotspots across the states in a bid to shame White House. And that's how they put it. I've seen others put it as they are there to help. I've seen others say that they're there to make a point, to make a statement. Again, it says hundreds, possibly thousands of big rigs will head for Eagle Pass in Texas, Yuma in Arizona, and San Ysidro in California from January 29th for the 4-day Take Back Our Border event. So, we're going to end up seeing what goes on with this. And then Dex, do you want to talk about Texas? About the Border Patrol has no plans to remove the wire.
Well, that's an interesting position. I guess they, at least in an interview, made the claim to one of the news agencies that the Border Patrol has no plans to remove razor wire placed by Texas along the southern border. A senior custom CPB official told that news agency, stressing a strong relationship with Texas despite the ongoing legal battle with the state and the administration, or the Fed, so to speak. So is this a sign that CPB is actually standing with Texas against their own administration, or is just an action they're taking for now until the person that's actually holding strong gets fired by the administration and they put somebody else in who's willing to do the work? That time will tell, but that is a very interesting statement to come out of them. Again, it's an interview that was done with a news agency, and that news agency reported what they heard from the person. It's not an anonymous source. They said they spoke with that person. So we'll see. I mean, this thing is just ramping up left and right.
Well, and now it's being called, and watch, now that it's a huge sensitive subject, watch everybody end up cracking down on the statements regarding this, right? We have talked about this for years. They could go back retrospectively and hit everybody that even suggests this, right? It's really crazy to see, because even if you support um, migration of this type, if you say, hey, these are just families looking for a better time, not all of them, and they've proven this, their own papers, their own reports, their own white papers say that there's bad guys mixed in with this. I, you know, there's a few camps that are divided on what they care about. Some care about everybody coming in this fashion. Some care about how the fact that you can't really tell the difference and that the bad guys are coming in. And then some completely support this, and are totally behind it. But it's like, as far as the numbers of bad guys that are coming in, if it is just even a certain percentage of it, if you look at the big number that is coming in, then that is a lot, even if it's a tiny percentage of all of the regular people that are coming in. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and let's not forget, this is a system of money for the cartels. It's a system of drug trafficking for them as well. And there's a lot of questions about how that may be either tied in or not with some of our agencies and or federal government, for that matter, just to put it out there flatly. And that's hypotheticals, and a lot of people have talked about them, but that stuff has gone back in years too. Our own involvement with the running of those things and the coordination with cartels. I will point to a few facts that have recently come out. The country of Mexico is really upset to see U.S. Military grade equipment that is now in the hands of the cartels, wondering how it got there. Well, somehow it got there via starting with our federal government. It may have gone through a few hands to get there, but there was some way that happened. Number two, that leak we had the other day with Kerry Lake was part of that conversation, mentioned the fact that they were scared that the people that could control them or do things to them had access to the cartels in 50 states, that they were embedded in 50 states. Why does that matter? Because they were speaking about power brokers in DC. They weren't necessarily speaking about the administration. They were speaking about the unknown people in charge that wield all the money in the politics. So if there is any tie to this whole notion of that's a whole nother aspect. There's one aspect is the fact that we were worrying about the people that are coming across. The other aspect is worried about the legitimate people coming across. We have to deal with them. But there's a third one is, how is this involved with the cartels? And they pretty much control that entire border. And there's a lot of suspicious activity that's gone on over the years with our country and them.
And I'm sure, high school students in the year 2050 will all find out about this in history books. But I guess most of us want answers right now. What is actually happening? How are these weapons getting transferred over? Now, most people know from previous events and how this has happened time and time again that usually it's because some sort of agency has some sort of wish to support one lesser evil over the more evil. But nobody really trusts anybody right now. So at this point, they're wondering if this is because it's in the greater cause of some other event or trying to help some other agenda, right? Either way, though, it's all speculation at this point. What we can see with our own eyes is that people are absolutely divided on this, that there has been more fire and fury about this than any other issue. And, you could go back 4 years, you could go back 8 years, you could go back 16 years, and you saw all of the issues. This one is actually triggering people to really get up in arms about. Not to mention, we've never had a former issue like this that actually has to do with adversarial countries and the people that may be working for them directly coming in. That's what's really bad. We have so many countries threatening to do something to us right now at the same time as all of this crisis is going on. How could this not be a bad thing? I don't see how, even if you are in support, couldn't say, well, yeah, I'm very hopeful for Joe and his family, but not for, this other group of males coming in that are here purely for evil purposes. So I think that a lot more people are questioning this event than we know. But then others are just kind of repeating what they've heard, the talking points. If you question them on their talking points, they just kind of repeat themselves and say, oh, well, I know. Okay, show me. Well, I don't have the stuff here. I don't have PDFs on me or something. And it's across the board with any kind of subject. When you really try to question somebody about why they think the way they think, when it really comes down to it, most of us know that it comes from an op-ed, where most of the theories and most of the questions that come from the other side are usually made by individuals and made by people, not by MSMs. That's the one difference I see now, is that a lot of folks are following what MSM says, and then a lot of other folks are following what alternative media says. And I think alternative media is closer to the truth than MSM, and I don't think anybody has the full truth. But I guess we'll see in time. Before we move on, I want to remind you guys, there are a lot of adversarial threats against our grid. And essentially, even if there is no adversarial kind of input from North Korea, China, Russia, if we don't have them try to EMP us, this is a device that can actually protect you not only from that, but also from a Carrington-level event from the sun. If a CME happens, or the natural version, which it will, that's a matter of when, not if, you can actually protect your vehicles so you can continue to drive to get your family to safety, or to get home to get to your family. This is easily wired into your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, RVs, of course, vans, and of course, your generators, your ham radios, and even your home, and it will protect your systems. It can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's fried, and of course, then you will be safe to go about your day. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Not only does it help support us, but you end up protecting yourself, and you're getting something out of it that will last for a very, very long time. It's a protection that really, there's not many competitors in that field. So go with EMP Shield. It is, again, the same company that's outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. If they're doing it, so should we. Like other countries, they're actually telling their people to prep. We just kind of look at, say, okay, what are they doing? We should probably do that too, because nobody's going to get around to telling us when to prepare. They want us completely dependent, and they don't want us afraid, and they want us to keep going to our 9 to 5s, so we make sure that the world keeps spinning, right? Well, unfortunately, when things do go down, like Hurricane Katrina, it's a complete mess, and they're not organized, and they don't have anything, and people didn't have food, and people starved. That's why people should prepare before an event, not after. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF to get $50 off and help your favorite channel. Thank you guys, and we appreciate it. All right, and then over to DC, there's several things here. So first of all, we have the Twitter FBI letter. So this is, first of all, it's enlightening to see all of these retired folks, but I know there's going to be folks that say, well, who are these guys? But this is a mix. So there's retired FBI guys, and I don't know how bad FBI was compared to how it is now. Most people do not trust the FBI either, even if they're retired. But at the same point, what they are saying does agree with what most of us have thought for a long time. As far as the names involved, we have a pretty wide varying, number of people here. We have Charles Schumer. We have Mike Johnson.
That's the two list.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Hold on one second. Let's go back here.
Page 3 and page 4 will have it.
You're right. Thank you. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Kevin R. Brock, Assistant Director, Directorate of Intelligence, Assistant Director, Criminal Investigative Division. You have, of course, Mr. Mark Morgan. You have Mr. Jody Weiss, Special Agent in charge of Philadelphia. You have the Terrorist Screening Center Director, Timothy J. Healy. You have the Executive Assistant Director of Criminal Cyber Response and Services Branch of the FBI, retired, Mr. Ruben Garcia. So why, and mind you, and there's more. Special Agent in charge, Milwaukee. You've got Assistant Director, Los Angeles, the LA Division, FBI, the Assistant Director, retired. So, and why you say, well, why isn't there current? Obviously, if they're current, they're not able to say anything. So why do you have all of the retired guys saying this? I'm sure there's going to be many that question this because a lot of these guys are intelligence. But in their retirement, are they actually trying to save what's left of what's happening here? I don't know. It's up to you. You got to make your own decision on that. But right now, they're all saying a very unanimous kind of message here. And that might be the point. They might be kind of telling us exactly what may be going down. It says the threat we call out today is new and unfamiliar. In its modern history, the U.S. has never suffered an invasion of the homeland, and yet one is unfolding now. According to this, military-aged men from across the globe, many from countries or regions not friendly to the U.S., are landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, not by splashing ashore from a ship or parachuting from a plane, but rather by foot across our south that has been accurately advertised around the world as largely unprotected with ready access granted. So there's many quotes in here, and they're pointing out that the gotaways and the number of people that are getting through and the number of the bad guys that are being caught, it's by the numbers, it's absolutely clear that there's going to be a number of the worst kind of people getting through. Along with the families just looking for a new life, there is some of the worst actors you have ever seen coming through. Is that part of an overall thing? Probably. That's just my opinion, though. Dex, you had another point you wanted to point out in here?
Well, they do talk about the fact that the director, the current director, who would be the only one that would speak on behalf of anybody that's active, actually did issue a statement after the event that happened in Israel back on 10/7, saying, hey, we have a large issue we have to deal with now, and that they think that he was correct in assessing the elevated threat was what happened since that time period, which we've reported numerous times. That elevated threat continues to be, mentioned, but they're basically saying, hey, nothing's really happened. Nobody's doing anything. And they even talk specifically about how in 2021, the demographics of those crossing that the South down there did shift to young men from around the world. It went from being, the traditional, you would see, families coming up and things like that, to just being a lot of significant number of young military, what you would call military age men crossing. So this is, not just people in the alternative side of things, not just people, that have crazy ideas. These are former feds themselves saying, hey, there's a problem, and we even see it, and why is nobody doing anything about it? And by the way, this specifically was a letter to the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, the chairman of the Committee on Intelligence, the Senate chairman on the Committee of Intelligence, the chairman of the Committee of Homeland Security, and the Senate chairman of the Committee of Homeland Security. So these were some pretty big names they were reaching out to put this letter in the hands of.
Well, as far as what's going on, everybody has to kind of be their own judge. Here's the thing I don't think that is going to hurt anyone. To, one, know of this happening, to be aware of your surroundings, to understand that if this does go south, that you should probably look at having some sort of backup plan. In other countries, especially in EU countries, you have, of course, all sorts of places that are actually preparing their people, and it doesn't hurt. People still go to work. People are less afraid of this because it is talked about. It's not a taboo. When you make something a taboo, or if somebody talks about it, say they talk about it at work, they're the crazy person. That is something that really is quite unique to us and only a couple other countries in the world. Other than that, prepping and preparing isn't even called that. It's like surviving. We're in a different place. We come from a place where mentally we're all thinking like we're in the richest and the most successful and the most powerful country in the world. We don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. In my opinion, that's stupid. I think that a lot of us preppers, we look at this and go, look at the way that they handled all of these bad events. Japan is one of the most prepared places. And when the 2011 earthquake happened, look at how bad that was. And they were one of the most prepared places in the world for an earthquake of that size. They didn't realize, in fact, they weren't prepared for that big because they didn't know it existed. But when that 9.0 hit and when that tsunami rolled in, look at how bad that handling of that was. And they were incredibly prepared for earthquakes. Now imagine us, the same country that couldn't figure it out for Hurricane Katrina, couldn't get water to the Superdome for 5 days. It's like in that situation, look at and there's whole departments. We all think, oh, there's a department just for that disaster. There's plans for this, plans for that, plans for that. But most of those plans are taking care of their own. In Hurricane Katrina, when that happened, you know what happened to the local police? If you think that they're going to come and make sure to keep order and all of that, a lot of those police officers, and there's video evidence of this saying, they're saying, well, why are you leaving your post? Because my mom is in a nursing home across town. I got to go save my own family. That's what happened. And that's what's going to happen if we have a really bad event like a grid down. Grid down is probably the biggest because out of all the scenarios you think about, the first thing in an adversarial conflict in any kind of manner is always to knock out communications, to knock out power. It doesn't matter if they're raiding a warehouse or if they're raiding a country. Knock out power, knock out communications. And every sign alongside that has come out right now. We just read a story last week, which we talked about last night as well, is that China has now said that they have some sort of low satellite, and we're going to talk about this tonight. There's more proof of this tonight, that these low satellites could block radar that the ships use to defend themselves. So the reason why our aircraft carriers are, what's the difference between our Navy and other navies? China's the largest Navy, but for years people have said, well, it doesn't matter if they've got 1,000 ships. 11 of our aircraft carriers with an assault carrier group kicks their butt every time. Doesn't matter how many they throw at them, right? Well, that's not true if they have some sort of satellite thing that can block the radar and stop our ships from knocking out missiles out of the sky. All of a sudden, they're just basically a floating brick out there ready to be hit. What is China practicing on? Life-size replicas of our ships. They even have already made a life-size replica of our new one. Dex, we always get this, the Gerald R. Ford. Is that the new one? It's either that or the Roosevelt. But they already had Gerald Ford, or they already had a Roosevelt. Now they have the newest one. So they're actively preparing to take us out. And people want to chop that up to, oh, it's just a contingency plan in case something goes down. I don't think so. And many people like myself agree. So what are we going to do? Are we going to wait until the news tells us that something bad is coming? Or are we going to get prepped now? I highly recommend, you have all of these, free things all around you. All of us take for granted that we have so much information around. In fact, most of us spend time, and we spend hours and hours a day, watching other kinds of content, this and that. Even if you spent 15 minutes a day for the next year, you would be a very learned person on how to survive during stuff. If you think about anybody, if somebody scrolls through for an hour and 25 minutes, I know, one of my nephews was going through their battery consumption. They saw, oh man, I spent an hour and 25 minutes on TikTok. I didn't even realize. I'm like, yeah, it's very addictive. But that hour and 25 minutes scrolling through little 30-second clips, even 10 minutes or 15 minutes of that could have been spent trying to prep. This thing is coming. And a lot of myself, I can only speak for myself, but for a few years, I didn't want to be called fearmonger. I don't care at this point. People are going to see that this is coming. And now finally, there's so much, it's like this rolling stone of evidence that this isn't all just some made up thing shot in a Stanley Kubrick set. This is the real deal, and they're going to shape how we see it. And then they're also going to shape how it's perceived. Then they're going to shape our lives around it. You can't build back without tearing down. And we're about at that tearing down stage. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I know a lot of you have family members and people. I've gotten emails every day. My family thinks I'm crazy. They all think I'm nuts. They're not going to think you're nuts when all this goes down. They're going to be knocking down your door, and they're going to ask if you have any extra food or water. Dex, go ahead.
I mean, just imagine where, we could rewind many years back and say, oh, we're like the Jade period, right? When they were at the helm. we can rewind back to that period and just thinking about what a conflict like that would look like on our own soil with our own country. And now we can sort of say, well, maybe this thing in Texas turns into that type of event where we, bring about a division kinetically in our own country. But imagine you layer in the fact that there are thousands, if not maybe tens of thousands, or even many more of our own enemy lying potentially inside our country, and all of a sudden we have a federal government trying to fight a conflict with an adversary and with itself, and you have a three-way split within our country. That's going to be more chaotic than we could even imagine, let alone having a civil conflict by itself.
Not to mention, if they were actually able to take out what they say, if there's any truth to the fact that China says 3 satellites could take out all of our carriers, and they say that 28 satellites could take out the entire globe. If there's any truth to that, they take out the real important part of our Navy. Think about where that puts us. Then you have, of course, something like North Korea eyeing South Korea for this long. North Korea takes South. China takes Taiwan. This takes that. And meanwhile, we have our power go out here. I mean, it's not, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that, yeah, if all of these countries have teamed up and said, well, I kind of want to take Guyana. It almost sounds like Venezuela was at the table with all these other guys. They're like, well, we want to take South Korea. Xi's like, yeah, I'm trying to take Taiwan. Russia's like, hello, guys, I'm trying to take Ukraine. And Venezuela's like, what about us? Like, we hate those Guyanas. Can I take Guyana? They're like, sure. I don't know who the Cubas are going to take, but maybe Florida. Who knows? But it's almost like that's what is lining up. Not only that, they're like, well, what are we going to do after we don't have America? America's got the dollar. Maybe we should come up with our own currency and start that now. Maybe we should get that going. Maybe like, call it BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, whatever. It's like they're setting it up so they don't need the US. Oh, well, what do we do about farming? Russia and China are like, well, we could trade farmland. We'll let you farm for free in our country and you let us farm for free in yours. Okay, that was done too. All the stuff we get from America, can I grow it in your country? Yeah. What about the stuff I get in America? The imports we get. Oh, I can grow it in yours? Sweet. Oh, but I can't get that from your country and I can't get that from yours. Maybe we should bring somebody else into the fold. They're all switching lands. They're all helping each other. They're all working together. And if you look at what the United States has done, and a lot of us have seen some of the nastier things that people in power have done with our country, we are the most powerful. We're considered the bully of the world. Maybe we're finally going to get, the hand that feeds the world is going to get bit. I think we're all so confused, and that's maybe part of it. They're confusing us with all the ganda. They're confusing us with the messages saying that everything is propaganda. Now nobody trusts anything, and that is exactly what you would do before you take over somewhere. That is what, back to Genghis Khan. If you look, I think the head honcho is probably Xi. This is my opinion. That Xi, who idolizes, even though it doesn't look like it, and I think he purposely makes it to where, we don't talk about. I think Mao, the previous ruler, banned all the stuff about Mongolia and what's his face, Dex. Gosh, what the heck? Mongolian leader, the richest man ever in history.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan would send in scouts. I don't know, like a Chinese police station, something like that. Spies would send in scouts into a village or into a city. And then those scouts would create rumors and create stories that would get all of the local people pissed off at each other, to the point where they would cause a civil conflict within that place. And then while they're fighting with each other, Genghis Khan would roll in with an organized army and just take it. You see a lot of similarities, and I've did a video on this where it looks like Xi Jinping heavily took a lot from Genghis Khan, including his Belt and Road Initiative, which is also like Genghis Khan, which gets the name from the yellow road, right? Gosh, I'm forgetting the yellow. Every time
Silk?
Yellow Silk Road. I kept thinking Yellow Brick Road. That's the Wizard of Oz, different story. But when you see it, you start saying, like, this really, maybe it is what is obvious. Maybe it is what's just right in your face. But everybody is afraid to believe what's right in our face because it is so scary. It is so terrifying. And if it is this obvious, then you would think that people from our country would be fighting back. Well, maybe they were. And maybe when they started fighting back, somebody slipped $1 million bill in their pocket and they said, okay, will I get a seat at the table? Are my family going to be good? Okay. Wait, all I have to do is hand out bracelets? Sure. But I do get a mansion, right? And I get a nice car. I get millions of dollars and I get to be in charge of people? Okay, I'll do it. And what about my kids and my kids' kids? Set up for life? Okay, sweet. What else is there? What if I have a friend just randomly that I want to have hooked up to? You're going to have the power to do that. Think about this. Like, think about the actions of our own country. It's been very, very freaky. And you do see some people that stand out, but most of us realize that all of these politicians are human beings, and human beings are, most of them are greedy, nasty people. Attorney General Ken Paxton refuses JB administration's demand to surrender Shelby Park and end the border security measures. And it said that the Attorney General Ken Paxton of Texas responded in a letter today denying demands made by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, explaining that Texas will continue securing the border. Additionally, Attorney General Paxton made a list of counter demands requesting the federal agency release certain documents and precise information relating to their alleged authority. So they're basically pressing him on it, saying, okay, well, I want you to prove that this is okay, because otherwise I'm not going to say it's legit.
Yeah, they've taken a second approach. The first approach was, oh, somebody got hurt crossing the wire, it's not safe, right? And then they came back and said, well, nobody ever was in distress. We saw the whole thing happen. Nothing happened. So now they're coming in and saying you're blocking access to land that is owned by the federal government. Well, technically, according to Paxton, that's not true, because the land they own hasn't even encroached on anything in what they're blocking. So the demand is they have by February 15th, DHS must supply the official plat maps and deeds demonstrating the precise parcels to which they claim ownership and explain to how Texas is preventing access to those specific parcels, documenting and showing that Eagle Pass or Texas ever granted permission for DHS to erect infrastructure that interferes with the security there, and the proof of Congress empowering DHS to turn a Texas state park into an unofficial and an illegal port of entry. And if the federal government is going to make such claims, it must provide proof. So he basically flipped this around on them and said, you actually have no legal ground to stand on. And if you even think you do, you better provide the proof for it, and gave him a deadline to do it. Hey, this is something else. Get this, though. Think about this. Greg Abbott, the governor, just left. He's in India for a week, 10 days. He's in a business trip in India. So this is all going down, and the governor of Texas, who's been the biggest supporter of this, is not there. I don't know what to read into that. They say it was for economic development in the technology sector with India, which is one of the biggest, obviously, tech sector spaces. And they're doing a lot of work with that, and it was paid for by a group that was part of the growth of the technology work in Texas. But Greg Abbott's gone for 10 days. He's sitting in India.
Which in itself, it's like, what a time to go on a business trip, right? I guess we'll see. And then from DC, before we do, let's head over to the chat here for a second. Thank you so much over on DLive, Skyhouse, Kimbria, One Aunt B, Priscilla R. Thank you for making it to yet another show. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, Kay Parker Fraser, for the super thanks on that last show. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Carpenter One, thank you for the support this week. I appreciate you. Let's see here. We have Mimi Carstel says, Cape Town, South Africa. You are always welcome here. Mimi, I have actually a friend that is from South Africa. We've talked about this for a few years now. I would love to visit, and even if I had a couch or a floor to sleep on, I would totally do it. I've been hyped up about South Africa and certain places there for a while. So Mimi, I might take you up on that someday. Probably not anytime soon. But KT Cleans a lot. Happy Friday to the Foogle fam. Much love. Aaron Peralt says, thanks for all you do, Dex and Moz. Adam, I sent you an email titled Marfoogle to the Moon. Hey, Aaron, thank you, one, for taking the time to write me. Two, thank you for putting the subject line in your comment. That way I can easily find it. So thank you. Maybe during one of the articles here, Dex covers, I can go peek for that. Thank you, Aaron, and I appreciate that. And then Carpenter 1, thank you. Dominica Lovara, thank you for your support yesterday. Airwolf, we appreciate you, and we appreciate everybody that ends up supporting our channel. Going into this next few months, the more important than any kind of support is sharing us out. It's going to get really bad. So I thank you. I thank you for sharing our stuff out. Thank you for sharing us with somebody who's never heard of us. Thank you for sharing us with somebody that you think would like our show and would honestly try to bring in good people if you can, good people that are positive and do want to make a change. All right, and from DC to Russia, says its scientists created a new nuclear blast simulator with flash and mushroom cloud effects to train soldiers. And when you see the images of this, they kind of put Oppenheimer to shame. You know, I thought the effects on Oppenheimer, they used micro bombs on Oppenheimer. And I guess they probably, I don't know if they were micro, but they made a realistic looking thing. But I thought that was so overhyped. Everybody made it like the graphics. I thought that they were going to make the scene where the nuke town was blown away and stuff. And I thought they were going to make that, redo that and make it look just completely legit. It's super overhyped in my opinion. But as far as
it wasn't like the Terminator movie.
The Terminator movie, what a great scene. Like, if you want to take inspiration from that movie as far as holding onto the fence, like how memorable is that? Like,
exactly.
You'll never forget that. It's disturbing. But Oppenheimer, yeah, I thought it was okay. But Russia made this blast simulator, and the reason we were talking about this is this thing is meant to give the soldiers the sheer kind of fear of having something go boom, seeing it, and have the effect. Do we have the picture, or is it on the original? Because this is like, it's crazy that they actually had it. And in this article later down, farther down, it talks about how they already had a simulator for this. This one's way better. And it's kind of terrifying. I mean, look at this. So imagine you're doing a military drill, and this is a couple football fields away, or however far away that they have to do it. And they're also having you do either live fire drills or some sort of drill where you're, red team versus blue team. And then something like this goes off. They are training them to basically do their job, to be fully aware while there's things like this going off next to them. I don't know if we do something similar. Dex I questioned that earlier. Like, do we have something like this? I'm sure we probably do, but I've never seen video or footage.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Why would they do this?
I was kind of surprised they said they had these before, and they're just old. Some of them don't work, and some of them are in storage, but they built a new one.
Yeah, later down here, it says, let me see. Yeah, the purpose of the model is to simulate what a nuclear strike looks like, the shock effect, so it will even give them a physical boom, a flash of light, and a mushroom cloud of a ground-based nuclear explosion. And I'm guessing they're kind of making this like a tactical, right? Or even if it's like a Moab or a Foab, a father of all bombs, mother of all bombs, that they will get used to just stuff going off next to them. And it says Russia's previous nuclear explosion simulator is no longer produced. So this, in with the new, out with the old. I never knew they had one, but this is the new one. They're like, this is, Mark V. Dex, go ahead.
What if this is just a cover? This is just a cover so they can do some tests and say, oh, it's just our simulator. Like they're gonna, take out a couple of tacticals and make sure they still work. right? Before they use them and get them ready for NATO, and they're just saying, "Ah, it's just our simulator. Get out of our country. You're not here anyway. You can't tell." I mean, I know we have detection devices in space that we can sort of monitor radiation levels, but still, it could be a good setup for a cover.
I guess we'll see. And if they really did, this isn't like practicing for a Satan 2 missile or something, or a Sarmat. This is practicing for tacticals. That's what it seems like, anyways. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you, everybody that's watching over on X. Appreciate you guys as well. I see you guys. Let's do a quick roll call. Where are you from? Just a general state or province, or a general country. I know we have a lot of people from around the world watching. To desensitize, see, hear, think. Exactly. Always a great time with everyone. Great, good conversation. Sean C., thank you for coming to yet another show. Aaliyah's here. I don't know if you've said it, but Aaliyah, I hope you're feeling better. Tanino, Washington, Joe Scheit, Jason Banning from Northern Michigan. Nice to see you and welcome and thank you. Bobby Sue from Central Kentucky, Bobby Sue Fry. Indiana, Ryan, thank you. Southern California. Let's see here. We've got Indiana in the house again. Thank you. Erie, PA. We have Pennsylvania, Kentucky, OH. Comet Moon from OH. IO. And we have Ireland in the house. Nacho Man, Randy Sandwich. I don't know why that gets me every time. Toby Nabros. I love your name. Nacho Man Randy Sandwich. Very, very few screen names get me, but that one always does. 1984 Resistant. Hey, Washington State, we've got a lot of locals. Thank you. Craig Alicious from Australia. It's super awesome to have not only regulars, but regulars from way outside the country, and knowing that you find this relevant, and I hope we're doing a good job. If you're in another country and still watch, I don't know. I feel like that says we're doing okay, especially since you are looking for, stuff going on and you trust us for it. So thank you. Seattle, hey, nice local here in the house. West Texas, waving a hand. Stephen Hayes, thank you. Speed Racer from Rochester, Washington. We've got Bremerton from Washington. Exotic, what was the rest of it? Exotic from Florida, over on X. Ashley Jean, Caligacho, Pocaloco. Caligacho in the Philippines. Are you watching from the Philippines, or are you from the Philippines? That is really cool. Chatting from Cartel camp in Juarez. I think that's what it said. Oklahoma, and somebody else. Dang it, I missed that one. Somebody else from X as well. I missed the rest of it. Dang it. Cherokee Survival. There shouldn't be like a slow mode on that either. So if you want to pop in again, I'm watching this time. Chicken Stamps from Northern Arizona, Sydney, Montana, and all of the rest of the world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for wherever you are. I know it doesn't sound like much, but when you share with somebody that is around you, when everybody thinks, oh, somebody else will do it or that, if you believe in us, then if you can do it, you would be it's unbelievable how much impact you guys have by bringing in somebody new. So I cannot overstate how important that is and how much it is appreciated when you guys bring somebody in new. If even just the 10% of people watching subscribed, that would also help, because then you'll get our notifications. You'll end up knowing when we go live. We do appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you. All right, and then Dex, let's go over to Yemen. Let's talk about Yemen, Dex.
Okay, so China is now pressing on them. Specifically, we asked yesterday, we as in the U.S. said, oh, we need help. So China, can you step in and help and go tell Iran to put their bad toys back in the box and tell these Houthis to stop doing what they're doing? Well, apparently China's doing it. They're stepping in. So now we see China, the savior, popping in to say that they are now pressing Iran to rein in the attacks in the Red Sea. Now, we'll see what comes of it, but they go on to talk about specifically the discussions about the attacks and the trade between China and Iran took place at several recent meetings in Beijing and Tehran, and the Iranian sources said, declining to provide details about when they took place or who attended, but basically China says if our interests are harmed in any way, it will impact our business with Tehran. So that was at least the way they sort of phrased it without saying, "Hey, we want you to stop doing this to the US." Now, I think more specifically, this probably means that they are pressing them to not attack China ships, not to attack anything that is relevant to the trade with China. But at the same time, it's difficult to just say, "Hey, we're going to sail our ships through this area and you're taking out other ships along the way." That just seems pretty scary. I know a lot of the businesses don't want to do that, even if they are coming from a country that might not be targeted. But certainly, I think that that's probably the path they went down. But we're seeing them sort of spin it up as China's the one helping out here.
By the way, I was I was just trying to look for a bigger city. Look at the conditions year round. Yemen. I mean, this is just straight up desert. It reminds me of apocalypse movies, like Mad Max style. Gosh, I'm wondering, could shoot a Mad Max in Yemen? Look at how this is. Look at the houses. Talk about like, man, it is just so different. Most of these are just dirt roads, a couple main roads. But if you look at main Yemen, there's no. I'm trying to find a big city anywhere.
Look for Sana'a.
Sana'a. Where's Sana'a? Is it north, south?
SANA''.
Ah, there we go. So over here, and of course it's closer to the water. Probably better have greenery. There's a big city. Gosh, and you think about how far spread out these are, and then all this land that is just essentially desert. And there's so many other countries that are just like this, mountainous regions. Nobody lives in a lot of these places. And if you look really close, you'll see them filming for the next Mars landing. All right, moving on. Before we move on, I do want to remind you guys, if you want to go check out My Patriot Supply, there's all sorts of really awesome goodies that are on sale right now. That, of course, helps us, and it helps you get prepared. Right now, there's the Ember Off-Grid Biomass Oven Pack. This is a really, really good deal because you have a ton of freebies with it. Again, you can go check out all of the stuff you get with that package. There's several different packages. If you just want to get the oven, you, of course, can do that. Really cool part about that is you not only can use the 6-hour canned heat that it comes with, but you can also load up twigs and pine cones and whatever in there and cook yourself or bake yourself some food. So very, very cool. Also, you can go check out marfooglenews.com/prep, where they have, of course, freeze-dried food that will last up to 25 years at a really affordable cost. When you do go end up getting bulk freeze-dried food, you will see freeze-dried food is expensive. It is incredibly priced right now, not only because of the process to make sure that that food is freeze-dried and lasts 25 years, the packaging, everything about it is expensive. So if you can find an affordable route on that, especially if you've got a big family and you're trying to get 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months of food for everybody, it's going to cost you. I know not everybody can just go grab a pallet like Zuckerberg and load it up. So if you want to do it a little bit at a time too, there's smaller packages. And then, of course, there's awesome gadgets like this. This is in response, by the way. A lot of people said it was more difficult to find the gadgets and kind of the cool things over on marfooglenews.com/prep. It was, so now we'll have separate links for things you can get through them. So you'll be able to get some of the more common things there. It helps support us and it helps you get yourself prepared. So thank you, everybody that ends up going through that. Again, appreciate it very, very much. All right. And then that's marfooglenews.com/bake for the oven and marfooglenews.com/prep for the food. All right. And then Dex, do you want to head over to Colorado for China, Russia disguise attack threats posed by their satellites?
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. So The report that's coming out here in Colorado, and that is the base, the Space Force base, where this report is coming from. They are loosely talking about the fact that they believe some of the satellite launches that have been done by our adversaries have been disguised and that they have multiple purposes. They use one example, and the example they use is that these satellites have been launched maybe to repair other satellites. But we really think that they may be designed and they're doing things that allow them to either surveil or destroy our satellites. That is a very interesting concept when you think about the point of the launches. They're able to launch things and claim it under space and claim it under the guise of we're doing space exploration, or we're launching communication satellites, or we're launching whatever satellites, but they can put these large ICBMs up, putting packages and payloads up into the low Earth orbit that can then sit there and perform things. And some of the things that we have to think about that would be related to that that aren't necessarily covered here because they're not going to tell us all the details are some of the other strange things we've seen, like the lasers that shot down in the sky from what was supposed to be a weather satellite. That was they said it was just measuring things, but that's kind of odd at what happened after that. The fact that we know that all it takes for a high altitude EMP, a HEMP, to go off is a nuke launched up in the upper atmosphere, meaning up in space. So that can actually sit in a satellite for years. It could be sitting there for 15, 20 years and be used at any time. And so the fact that they are saying that there's a concerted effort by our adversaries to launch disguising satellites to do other things, they are masking and concealing the activities that they're doing. They only give one example, which is the one I explained, but they are also suggesting there's other things happening as well. And that's what I guess is kind of important to pay attention to here, because we know we've talked about, even just with somebody as simple as North Korea, and I say simple, like hermit nation, they don't have a lot of great technology. They have been able to launch satellites. Not only just recently, they put two up many, many years ago, and they have them going right over the hotspot of America, not to surveil us, right over the hotspot of America, where, and I say the hotspot, it's the ideal location to detonate a hemp, an EMP, and it crosses that every so many days. It hits that same spot. So we don't know what's inside that tin can flying up there. It certainly could be that. We know they've had the capability, but that's just an example. That's one of many examples, and this can go on at a greater level with somebody that's not a hermit nation like North Korea. When you take into account what Russia does and what China does in space and how many launches they have and what they have put up there over the years.
And I don't know about other countries, but other countries having as many private industries as we do. Dex and I were surprised to see how many of the private companies there were, as far as there, there's launches all the time by companies we've never even heard of, non-SpaceX companies. I wonder if China has multiple smaller companies other than their main, space entity launching, whatever and everything. Uh, as far as these lasers goes, touching back on that, this is what we were mentioning earlier this week, and I should have showed you a picture then, but some believe that this is actually mapping out Hawaii and areas like Guam, because they could then send in something like their aircraft carrier. And this is a autonomous aircraft carrier, or a drone carrier. I shouldn't say aircraft, that can then run without a single human being on board and then launch autonomous drone swarms from that carrier. If you have the area digitally mapped, the AI in these systems could then find its own target. They give it a parameter and say, target all of this, this, and this building, target these, and these people. They've grabbed a profile on almost every human being on Earth. They could take out certain lists of people. They could take out certain buildings, all via AI and autonomous driven drones. This, as far as this goes, they said it was weather, this or that, but that's why we're talking about these dual use satellites. Not to mention the story we just mentioned earlier in the show about satellites that could block radar, that could actually essentially stop all of our anti-air equipment. It's freaky to think we're at this point right now. And then this was wild to me. I'm thinking, like, why do they need to buy it? Like, I almost thought, are they doing this because, they're actually, they're trying to make us think that they have to buy it. Now, of course, they're buying us. They're buying us our information. That doesn't mean they're not spying on you anymore. Because few years ago, after everybody, found out through Edward Snowden that the NSA and everybody was spying on you, hacking into your phone, all of this, there was a big backlash. Many countries were absolutely just pissed off at the U.S., saying, "How could you do this?" They made examples like the U.S. NSA could access the French president's phone and spy on him in his house. Things like that were going down. Now, after this, I actually covered quite a few years later, they said, "Oh, we're deleting all these phone records. We're deleting all these things." The general public is being told, "Oh, we're trying to minimize that. We're trying to not do that." Of course they're spying on us. So people go, "What? Why do they have to buy our information if they have it?" What's even crazier is that social media companies and all of the corporations out there and these information brokers, they have more information than the government does. Dex, you made a good example. So make an example of what they would buy as far as like transactions and things like that.
So think about the data that goes into point of sale solutions, like one that might be in Walmart or in Target, hey, take another company like, a smaller company that probably uses an outsourced outfit for that, like Ace Hardware. And I'm not trying to throw these companies under the bus by any means, but they use point of sale systems, which is the cash register, which keeps track of everything that's in their inventory and everything that's sold, and it's who bought it and what credit card paid for it, and all that information goes into a database. There are data brokers that take that information and sell it off. They're supposed to anonymize it or at least take away the identity, but still be able to piece back that identity later. The examples I've seen in the marketing world before, where they would say, "Hey, we could tell if someone recently bought a car and were shopping for baby diapers, so we would know they may be a young person because they have recently purchased a car and they've been shopping in the Babies R Us, I don't think that's a thing anymore, store, and they've been buying things for him, so they have a profile of these people, and they could use that information to then market better." That's why these data brokers exist, because they want to have as much possible information as they can get out of all of these systems that are built. And they take that and they use it and spend billions of dollars with marketing to sell more product. But the NSA turns around and says, "Hey, we can get that data and we can use it for our own purposes. If you're selling it for marketing, why aren't we buying it and grabbing it up?" So that's what's going on here, is they're saying, hey, they're going to these data brokers and they're buying this data. And it's not like the NSA couldn't create some system and couldn't go in and maybe track cash registers around the world, but it's a lot of extra work. Why would they do it when they can just go buy it and they can get it for free? And they're doing it without warrants.
Yeah, because it's out there and it's legal to buy. So you don't need a court decision on it. You don't need a warrant. You just need money. And I thought it was ironic that it's most likely taxpayer dollars for the government. You're paying them to spy on you. I mean, am I the only one that thinks that's nuts? Here's some more money. Let's go spy on us. All right. And thank you, Viv B. Viv B says, let's see here, talking about a bank. PNC Bank and 6 other are offering digital wallet connected to your debit card. I got new TOS, and on page 58 of a 64-page document, they will decide if your account qualifies. It can be opted out. This screams of precursor to CBDC. Good for you. And by the way, congratulations. You are probably 1 out of 100 that actually reads your TOS. And I don't think I started until I was 30 or something reading all of the TOS. And I skim, especially if it's 100 pages. But even apps that I download for my kids, things like that, I read the TOS. Most of the time, they're not that long. And most of the time, you can kind of skim past the stuff that's the general stuff. But man, There are so many secretive things, like the TikTok TOS. I couldn't believe when I read that they even said that they do keystroke monitoring. Like, that's in the TOS, that they're monitoring your keystrokes. That means and that's out in and outside of the app. I don't know if they've changed that because of the backlash that came from that. But it's like, if you have TikTok on your phone, you go over to another app, you're in Bank of America or US Bank, you type in your password. If you've done it, you've typed that password in every day for a week, then they see that once a day. They type in this exact, weird message. They could record that and send it back to a certain, I don't know, government that might be not exactly a constitutional republic. And then that government could possibly use it in some of their studies to use against you. Good for you, Viv B. Thank you for your support, and I appreciate that. Bandy Bear, thank you so much as well for the super sticker. And thank you, everybody over on DLive that has just shuffled in there. Thank you, and thank you. Speaking of which, One B, appreciate that. Thank you. And then Pentagon report predicts new age of CV bioweapons and brain chip warfare. You guys already know about this because you have been hearing about this through us for over 2 years now. We even had LJ Eads, who talks about Neurostrike. He called into the show. He is one of 3 on one of the big reports that actually busted this wide open. As far as after speaking with folks, and I was on Twitter Spaces or X Spaces, and I've talked to several people about this, and there are some pretty high up people right now that one of their main concerns is that not only will we have a grid down, not only will we have several wars going on at the same time, but they will be able to use either low Earth satellites or balloons to be able to essentially not control our brains, but to stop us. Imagine something hitting you that would stop you right in your tracks, would not allow you to move. Imagine something as far as something that could be made in a beaker in some sort of laboratory, and all of a sudden it's released, and all of a sudden it only affects certain types of people. That is what they are talking about in this Pentagon report. It says the year is 2028. A new and highly CV has struck the sailors of the U.S. Pacific Fleet stationed in this -C. As the world grapples with this emerging demic, confusion runs rampant among officials at all of the 3-letter agencies who bicker over the most effective response strategies. Meanwhile, China, seemingly immune to this virus, seizes the opportunity to launch a full-scale assault on Taiwan, capitalizing on the global chaos. Now, you can read the rest of this. Again, it actually goes in through this scenario, but that first part says it all. Chaos here. Seemingly immune somewhere else in the country. Say it's not China. Say it's North Korea. Somehow their people are not affected by this thing that everybody else is getting hit by. If you've seen the movie or the show or read the book The Stand, there were certain people that basically were selected to live, right? I think by God, right? By God had certain people and they all dreamed the same dream. Well, imagine if humans could actually make something that did that. They're like, well, we're gonna keep these people aside and everybody else is gonna be gone. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. It's a very, very scary thing. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight quickly. This is a report, excuse me, put out and released earlier this month. First reported apparently by this article, but it was put out by the Acquisition and Technology Policy Program of the RAND National Security Research Division. So this is, it's RAND. This is who this is. One of the quotes, though, that comes from RAND or the planners, and they're saying what they should consider is that we see a complex high threat landscape emerging where the future wars are fought with humans controlling hyper sophisticated machines with their thoughts and synthetically generated, genomically targeted plagues that will actually cripple military industrial bases, etc. It goes on, and this, by the way, I looked at the report, and you guys can get to it. It's the article has the link to it. It's just the article's on our website if you want to read the full article, but then that's a nice summary. But the 47-page report from Rand goes into great detail, covering things from brain chips to the hacking of potential brain chips and how that's going to play in as this expands. So very fascinating stuff, but not this is not sci-fi movies. This is stuff that's under development. This is stuff that we're going to see, especially on the genome side. And we know about the brain chips. They're already testing them in real humans, at a medical level, not, in a consumer medical level, not even at the military level yet. That's probably already been done.
And it says at the same time, authoritarian states might similarly brutally suppress anti-you-know-what populist, the V, right? This is now in this realm where most people, if you were just in a conversation, you had no PDFs to show them. You talk about this, they'll go, oh yeah, I saw a movie like that. This isn't a movie. This is no longer theoretical. This is happening. There's evidence of this being fooled with, and there's a lot of evidence to say that we've even seen some of this stuff get leaked out into public, not the actual, the thing that would take everybody out, but the information that they're working on this has come out. There's been certain buildings that were doing very sketchy things in them that we found out about. On top of all of the other events that are going on, on top of all of the other police stations being set up in all of our allied countries. Like I said earlier, with all of the countries that are saying, hey, the U.S., they got to go. Follow the new Rome. And people are still like, nah, don't worry about it. Nah, it's all this, it's all that. They're just trying to scare us. At what point are they not? What if they really do have an agenda? What if they are willing to do any of this to change the entire system into something that they want, that would be easily controlled, that would, benefit them more? They already have their money. Maybe they already have their groups set out. They already have who's going to be at the table. They already have all of this mapped out. We only get, and at any given time, you have people that realize at this point, people don't live forever. So you have this, and they want that power. They want that during this lifetime. So in any given generation, you will have that kind of person that says, we're going to take over that world. Now, it seems like you have a group of people that are like, let's split this up and let's do it together. One person tried to do it several times. What if we have a small group of people that try to do it? Seems like it's working. And they have some sort of system of a hierarchy of all the way down to, local and state politicians. They all think they got a spot at the table, when really at the very big table, everything else to them is the kids' table. That's what it seems like anyways. And again, we're just theorizing. Dex, go ahead.
And I just wanted to reiterate, Rand was the company or organization. It's a think tank, one of those policy think tank groups that does lots of different research. But the research that they did, or the report that they were doing, was sponsored by the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So when they say this was the Pentagon, actually some of the scenarios were initially conceived by Pentagon researchers, and then they turned this into a greater study and turned it over to Rand and then funded Rand to do it. So this is your tax dollars at work here.
What movie
coming up with?
What movie was it that they used Rand? It was a movie, and it was a fictional movie, but they used Rand as like the actual company in it, and a lot of people were like, wait, that's actually what Rand does. And they were like, no, this is a fictional Rand. If anybody knows the answer to that trivia, I don't have the answer, so it's not trivia. But if you know what movie, there was a movie that kind of portrayed Rand as the evil big corporation. Trying to remember what the name of that was. My first came to my brain was like Spider-Man or one of the Spider-Mans, but That's not right either. All right, and let's see here. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Skyhouse. Thank you. Let's see. I'll just keep doing it. The Family Guy leg hurt here. All right. And Mars, NASA says goodbye to Ingenuity after historic helicopter makes emergency landing on Mars. Now, again, NASA says that this helicopter essentially is done and down for the count, right? Dex and I had a conversation about earlier. I was like, my first thought, and it might sound dumb because Mars does have an atmosphere, but my first thought was like, how do they? And I remember thinking this when we first covered this helicopter thing, like, wait, how does a helicopter fly on Mars? I thought, aren't we heavier on Mars? So it has not only more gravity, but less atmosphere. And both are true. Heavier gravity, less atmosphere. So they made a big deal out of it. There's several articles that talk about how it's a big deal that this even worked. But as far as this Ingenuity, and we talked about the moon. They can't use a helicopter on the moon, right? There's no atmosphere. There's no air. You can't get lift if you don't have air. Well, I guess you can get lift from some sort of atmosphere. You have to have something. But I still don't get that how they possibly did this. But look at how simple this thing looks. It's just a literal box with 4 legs. I guess I think it's kind of funny that almost all of the NASA stuff looks like somebody just kind of made a what do you call it? Like a practice run, like sketched up something and made it out of cardboard boxes and then said, oh yeah, this is what, the general layout. And they're like, no, let's go with that. They're like, oh yeah, looks good. They're like, no, this is just the prototype. No, I'll go with that one. No, it looks great. Just paint it silver. Oh, no. Price tag? $19 trillion. Just put $19 trillion on it. Paint it silver. Yep. No. Don't use the good paint. Use spray paint. Have some wires hanging out the side. Oh, in fact, it's going to be completely sealed, but leave an open panel with a bunch of wires. Yeah. That's how I feel anyways. And I know that not everybody's going to agree with that, but they said it made an emergency landing during its second to last flight last week. During its final trip on January 18th, the craft lost contact with Perseverance, the rover from which Ingenuity deployed in 2021, when it was flying about 3 feet or a meter above the ground while descending to land. Engineers restored contact with Ingenuity the next day, and photographs taken later showed damage to one of its carbon fiber rotor blades. Yeah. This is how it works. There's a solar panel on top. It looks like one of those goofy hats that kids used to wear with the propeller on top. Yeah. Tiny swath of fabric from wing of Wright Brothers 1903 flyer fixed to solar panel. They actually put a Wright Brothers. They put some history in it, so people would be interested in it. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, they even said that they didn't see the crack, the broken rotor. They saw a shadow of the broken rotor. So. But this thing, when it landed originally, it landed it was the belly. Perseverance carried Ingenuity on its belly and then landed on Mars, and then Ingenuity came out on its own and then, I guess, transformed into what it is and then started flying around. It had a small path. I think you can see that path, this airfield that it flew around.
Either way, let me give me your opinion on it. Yeah. It makes you wonder. Who knows? Maybe you'll see a Yemenese person walk right behind it. And then Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau made a comment and called Zelensky for the first time this year to calm him down and Tucker Carlson a Putin apologist. Why he's talking about Tucker Carlson, I don't know. I get that Tucker is still making waves, even though he doesn't have a mainstream show. But yeah, this whole clip is available over on our website. You can go to the link. But yeah, basically out of nowhere, like
faraway foreign land to appease Putin apologists like Tucker Carlson and those who enable him.
And in the beginning,
my very first call this year was with Volodymyr Zelensky, who wanted to know that Canada still stood with him, that Canadians still stood with him. And I told him, yes.
And this is, I don't get political, and this isn't even my country. So, but I will say this, this just in general, and I say this the same about like Anthony Blinken, especially, I think it's Anthony Blinken, John Kirby. Like, these guys are just so fake to me and like over the top, like car salesmen. I feel like most people should be able to see that this guy's just, he doesn't actually care about these things. He's just saying what they want him to say. And that, it's like, this is, in my opinion, it's all driven around this huge, crazy agenda. If you're from Canada, are you a big fan of Trudeau? I just talked about it a couple weeks ago about a conversation my aunt had with one of her older friends. This was back in the day, and it was the same conversation that Canadians have about Trudeau. And it was a conversation about Clinton. And she remembers she worked at a major port. And her friends, they're all, were very liberal at that time back in the 90s when Clinton was president. And when all the scandal was going on, the very gross things came out about, Monica, that her friends, very well-to-do people, they all didn't care because of how handsome Bill Clinton was. Basically, Bill could have done anything and they would still love him because he was this attractive guy and they all had a crush on him, right? She said she just couldn't believe that they were totally okay with all the gross things he did because they were just so enamored by him. He's so charming. And it goes into, there's been studies done on how attractive people, these studies are what Abercrombie and Fitch used for years. And I think they tried to stop this, but Abercrombie and Fitch, I knew several people that worked there when I was in my early 20s. The attractive people would be put out in front. They would literally hire you. If you were attractive, you're going to be on the floor. And if you were not attractive, they wouldn't call you ugly. They would call you an impactor. An impactor would be in the back folding clothes. So the pretty people out front, the ugly people in the back where you can't see them, right? And this was based on studies that said that people trust attractive people more than they trust ugly people. And it's a sad truth that, they say, people are all trying to be, we don't judge this or that, but people do judge. People judge everybody. Everybody judges without even thinking about it. And with him, it's like people just see this charming young man and say, yeah, he's great. Meanwhile, he's done some pretty horrible things, in my opinion, like cutting off the bank accounts to the protesters. If that ever happened in reverse, it would be insane. But that's my opinion. I know it's going to split some of you from Canada. Some Canadians absolutely love him. And I would like, if you have a general nice and polite opinion about him, why do you like Trudeau? What are the things that really stuck out to you, that why you support him and why you love him? Most of the people I've talked to from Canada are not a fan, or at least haven't been in the last 4 or 5 years. So why? Plus, today I found out about the whole theory about him and the Fidel theory and stuff. Not saying I believe it, but man, I couldn't believe that that's even a thing. If you don't know about the Fidel and Trudeau thing, go look it up. And it's kind of crazy that, yeah, you look at his mom and his dad. His mom was a 22-year-old, and his dad was a 51-year-old prime minister at the time. And it makes you think, like, what did they do back in Cuba back then? What kind of people did they move around? Just crazy stuff. What kind of deals did they do with other countries, and did they ever do stuff like that? If they ended up having unexpected children and things like that. But yeah, they said it was after they went to Cuba and personally visited, but I guess go look for yourself. I didn't even know that existed, and pretty crazy. What do you think of it? Let me know. If they're attractive, does that mean you give them a pass? Because that's what a lot of people do. Heck, look at half of the celebrities in Hollywood. Unless they're on the wrong end of the spectrum, that doesn't... You can be as attractive as you want. Nobody will give you a pass. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy, especially right now. Again, go check out the Tactical. This is the same generator that's going to be shipping out the U.S. Army. There is a wait for Energy. Again, this is one of the the highest quality generator I've ever seen. When you look at this versus most of the competitors, you can easily pick why you would want this. One, it's going to be reliable. It's built like a tank. It's built like appliances used to be. Two, it is silent. Nobody's going to hear it from 10 blocks away, let alone 30 feet. And three, you're going to have unlimited power with solar like this. You want something when it comes to this, you want it to be high quality. You want it to have zero issues. You want it to be able to start up when you want it. And again, you want it to be sure that it's not going to be able to be turned off remotely or have some sort of issues down the line because it has faulty parts. They use the highest quality parts. Again, they build it right, and they're not a front for some other country. Most of the competitors that I looked at in the very beginning when I was looking for one, almost all of them have a company that is a direct front for a certain country and a certain Xi Jinping right behind him. So I think that this is a really, really solid unit. It is expandable. It's modular. It is our recommendation. The only downside I would say is that you will have to wait. Right now, there is essentially there's lithium is being fought over by other countries, and there is a pretty lengthy wait to get one. So if you want one right now, you better get your name on one. The price on all of this technology is going to go up over the years. So if you do get something, especially like the head unit, which is future safe, if they make any changes or mods, you're going to be able to put that in just like a Lego brick and alter it from there. So once you got your initial system, it's a whole lot easier. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. That one actually has built-in heaters into all the batteries. It has a 1,500-pound latch system. It's got a steel reinforced frame. It's water and dust resistant. It's the all and everything. Not to mention you can expand it up to 96 batteries, and it is one of the only systems you can protect with an official EMP shield. marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. Dex, let's let people, how did they get to the bibliography and all of that? Now they've made it really hard.
Just a couple ways you can do it. The easiest way is to open up your browser and type in marfooglenews.com. Everything we give you, we try to make it simple. marfooglenews.com/something. In this case, just go to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show. It's right there. It looks the same thumbnail that you'll see on YouTube. It matches to the website. So visually, you know where you're going. If you're on YouTube, you can look for the description. If you're on a desktop, it's pretty easy. If you're on your mobile phone, turn it tall if you're watching wide, because you won't. I can't find it. I know the description's buried in there somewhere, but it's really hard to get to. So if you're in the description, though, it's that first link, the very first one. It's the most important one. It takes you to the bibliography. It's called Show Notes. You can click that, and it'll take you right here as well.
Thank you, Dex, and thank you for all of your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you to all of our mods. I know Ilea was here, and make sure to go check out her channel along with her Twitter. And everybody's go over and check out all of their great channels at marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you, everybody that has attended. I love you guys, and Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
I let the politicians doing all that Babylon. I travel back in time like we a tagging on. I'm watching up fall of Rome now to Babylon. I hire Michael Rappaport on the cameo. I used to tell him that his acting is horrible. And if he didn't know, I said this if when we stand alone, we stand together, stand strong. I let the politicians doing all that Babylon.
Viv B and Mimi Carstel, thank you for your support. Thank you. Viv B, it looks like you are a top supporter, along with Mimi Carstel.
I with the on the Viv B, and everybody Allah will soon see. I did, we're not crazy, and everybody knows it is lately. A little bit of Allah on the insane, with the insane in the membrane. Or maybe brain chips gonna go stop us, and maybe the Jeep will pop us.